Hello, welcome to Prophecy Pod Radio. Today I'm going to look at evidences for God's existence, which is under strong attack by the new atheist. Now I will be working with arguments made by Dr. Greg Gansel, whom I think makes some good arguments for the existence of God. Now he and others point out that if God exists, there are two basic sources of information about him, and they are one, the physical universe. Now we can draw conclusions about God from what we observe in the universe. We look at the physical universe, and we look at human nature, and we look at culture, and we observe things which may be clues to the existence or the nature of a supernatural being. Or two, God could have entered the universe and told us about himself, about morality, about meaning, and how to have a relationship with him, and this is called revelation. Now the reasons to believe in God, there are two observations that give us good reason to think there is a God. First, the existence of the universe is better explained by the existence of God. For example, there are things which come into existence. Everything which comes into existence is caused to exist by something else. There cannot be an infinite series of past causes. Therefore, there exists a first cause which did not come into existence. In other words, the first cause always existed. Now, I'll go into a little more detail about each of the steps in this argument. Premise one is that there are things which came into existence. Now, many things have come into existence. You came into existence. I came into existence. Now, this premise is not controversial. Premise two is everything which comes into existence is caused to exist by something else. Now, it's obvious that nothing can cause itself to come into existence, because anything that causes itself to come into existence had to exist before it existed, and that's just impossible. But perhaps something can come into existence from nothing, without any cause whatsoever. So, can a thing just pop into existence with absolutely no cause? Now, this also does not seem reasonable. Now, I like an illustration that Dr. Gansel relates. He has children, one of whom is 5, and he comments that if he walks into the dining room and he sees a picture of Pinky and the Brain drawn on the wall in permanent magic marker, he's going to ask his daughter, "Where did this picture come from?" Now, if she tells him that it came from nothing, Daddy. Nothing caused it. It just popped there. He says he's not going to accept that explanation, and I doubt you would accept it either. And that's because things do not come into existence from nothing without a cause. So we have good reason to think that premise 2 is true. Everything which comes into existence is caused to exist by something else. And premise 3, there cannot be an infinite series of past causes. Is the series of past causes infinite? Can the universe have an infinite past? And the answer is that it cannot. First, there are philosophical reasons to think the past cannot be infinite. And second, there are scientific reasons which support this view. Now, philosophically, the question, why can't the past be infinite, is a good one, but as Gansel points out, the answer is that it is impossible to complete an infinite series by addition. The series of past events is complete. Think of this mathematical fact. Why is it impossible to count to infinity? And it is impossible because no matter how long you count, you will always be at a finite number. It is impossible to complete an actual infinite by successive addition, because then you have to go into the future. Now, the past is complete, and as Gansel says, this means that the entire series of past events ends now. It ends today. Tomorrow is not part of the series of past events. The series of past events does not extend into the future. It is complete at the present, and if it is impossible to complete an infinite series of successive addition, as it is impossible to count to infinity, the past cannot be infinite. If the past is finite, that is, if it had a beginning, then the universe had a beginning, and we have strong philosophical reason to reject the claim that the universe has always existed. But more people are probably concerned about the scientific reasons why why the past can't be infinite, so I'll just point those out. For one, the Big Bang Theory does not prove that the universe had a beginning, but it certainly supports this claim. And two, the second law of thermodynamics, which basically says that disorder increases over time, or that in time differences in temperature, pressure, and density tend to even out. This law, the second law of thermodynamics, does not prove that the universe had a beginning, but just like the Big Bang, it supports the claim. So we can see that we have good philosophical and scientific reasons to reject the idea that the universe has always existed. Next, Gansel looks at the universe itself. There are only three alternatives to the existence of the universe. One, the universe has always existed. It has an infinite past. Two, the universe was popped into existence from nothing with absolutely no cause. Three, the universe was caused to exist by something outside it. Now, we have strong reasons to reject the first two alternatives, as I've already discussed. Now, I agree with Dr. Gansel that alternative 3 is the most reasonable. There was a first cause. This cause existed eternally, and because it is eternal, nothing was needed to cause it. Only things that have a beginning need a cause. When something is eternal, it does not require something to create it, because it has always existed. And logic tells us that something has to be eternal. There has to be a first cause that did not need anything to create it. Now, if the theory of the Big Bang is correct, then this first cause initiated the Big Bang and created the universe. Now, next, Gansel asks what we can know about this cause and why think the cause is God. And his answer is that the first cause is not a part of the space-time physical universe because it caused the space-time universe to begin. Therefore, it is outside of space and time. It is not physical. Second, it has a great deal of power. Third, it is a personal agent. This means it is not an inert force, but it must have aspects of personhood, namely that it wills things to be caused. And how do we know this? This is because it is the best answer to the question of why the Big Bang happened when it did. Why didn't it happen sooner? Why didn't it happen later? All of the conditions for producing the Big Bang existed from eternity. The only kind of cause we know of that can initiate an effect when all of the conditions are already present is the will of a personal agent. Now, Dr. Gansel does not argue that it is logically impossible that the universe popped into existence from nothing without cause. He argues that it is more reasonable to hold that it had a cause and that this cause is a non-physical personal agent, namely God. And I agree with him. So it seems that the first argument is fairly strong. The existence of the universe is better explained by the existence of God. Now, I said there are two observations that give us good reason to think there is a God, and the first one was that the existence of a universe is better explained by the existence of God, and the second is that the existence of objective moral values is better explained by the existence of God. And that's a very strong argument, and I'll go into that in my next podcast. So that's all I have for today, and as always, I'd like to thank you for listening to Prophecy Pod Radio, and I hope you will join me next time.